Welcome to our latest edition of Inner Frustum. We are here with very special guests, Naysun and Ben and Michael, of course, from Final Pixel. Let's do some quick introductions. I'll let you go first, Naysun.
Sure, yeah. I'm Naysun Alae-Carew. I'm the managing director of Griffin. We're a kind of multidisciplinary entertainment studio based in Glasgow in Scotland, and we work across video games, film and television production, and post-production.
Amazing.
So I am Ben Bentley. I am one of the studio executives at Nightsky Studio. We are a new film and TV complex based out of Coatbridge in Scotland. We've got 32,000 square foot of studio space, but we also have VP wall. We've made quite a sizable purchase in that, and yeah, that's our game.
Amazing. And Michael, you want to do a quick...
Yes, I'm Michael McKenna. I'm the CEO of Final Pixel, and yeah, this is quite nice to be here. We're actually in Coatbridge, or just outside Coatbridge, as it counts Coatbridge, which I grew up literally a few miles down the road from here, and used to spend a lot of time coming up to places around here. You know, the fort. We're not far from the fort.
Yeah, the fort's like
Glasgow
10 minutes
Fort
away.
for those who know Glasgow, and also what's up in Coatbridge? There's a big swimming bath.
Yeah, the main thing at the minute is the
Time
showcase.
capsule.
Did anyone else go to the time capsule
yeah.
when they were wee?
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like, it was this place that had an indoor and outdoor pool. Or was that the Aqua? Yeah, I'm sure that it had like an ice rink, and it had a pool, and had all this really cool stuff when you're
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
10 years old. And
I'd like
loving
to go
it.
there
But
now.
Yeah, no, we should definitely do it. It's probably, is it still there?
I think so.
It was when I was a kid. It was like the big thing.
Yeah,
in
it was
Scotland,
mad, yeah.
like,
See,
in terms
I
of that kind
don't
of stuff,
know.
but I don't know
I'm
that-
from the Highlands, so we're still kind of shocked that you can have a pool indoor that isn't just out there in the wild.
So where are you from originally?
Just north of Inverness,
North of
a
Inverness.
tiny little town called Dingwall.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's many people have passed through it.
Yeah. I've never been to Dingwall, actually. I'd love to go up there.
You spent slightly longer than others passing through.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're all here today because we are doing this virtual production fellowship together, which we talked a bit about in December. We had this huge launch training initiative. We also had a big event that brought in about 200 plus people from the industry, I think, from the night. So let's talk a little bit about what the virtual production fellowship is, first of all, and what your participation is as one of our partners, and why it's important. I know there's 3 questions, but we'll organically weave it together.
You should tell us what it is.
No.
Oh no,
People have listened to me talk enough about virtual production fellowship. I'm really interested in your part in it.
Yeah, so I guess for me, what it is really it boils down to what we wanted for Scotland and what we wanted to do. Maybe not differently, but what we thought would be particularly suited. And for us, as you know, this was all of us obviously together. So I don't mean Blazing Griffin, but us jointly felt that a fellowship program over a number of years that took people to a really high level was what was going to be really important in Scotland. And I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but Scotland has a really proud history of film and television production. We're used to doing very great things, but not a lot. And I think it often sort of unsung, but really highly experienced and really good practitioners, like really like practical practitioners, like people who can make things. And I think when we were thinking about this, when we were talking to Screen Scotland about it, we didn't want another kind of like a few weeks seminar or something like that gives you like a level 1. Those are really valuable as well. But what we felt would be particularly good here is something that would have longevity, that would have a depth and a level of expertise that would then kind of reflect how practitioners already make things in Scotland, and then could also disseminate more widely, rather than it just being that kind of surface level understanding. And it's new, it's brand new.
Yeah.
So it needs to go to a really, it does need to go to a deep level in this kind of area where there's not a lot.
I think to kind of lean in on what you were saying there was that the real joy was that because the language around virtual production is still developing, the skills are still developing. It's arguably on the bleeding edge of technology constantly. Being able to have something that will help people understand not necessarily how to make screen work and how to make it function, but actually be able to continue to iterate on that skill set and be able to understand arguably what the fundamentals around VP are and how you're able to translate that from okay, I'm just in front of a wall, to how you really start to make VP work for you and take that creative vision and make it real, because that's the joy. You know, you're able to arguably shoot anywhere and be anywhere, be anytime, and never have to really leave where you are, which is just a, you know, as a visual thinker, and I like to previs and draw everything out, it's a far easier way to be able to take that. I've got something sitting here. How do I use words to describe this when I can draw it, put it on a wall, and start to explain it that way? And being able to offer that to, as you say, the skill set in Scotland is just it's an honour and a privilege. I think, really.
And I think just something sparked when you were saying there that this is also because, you know, we're able to have a program which goes over multiple years and have new intakes of fellows, that this is so new, it's all developing all the time. So it's also a program that can grow with the fellows, and new fellows from previous years can hopefully share the new insights to those who've been in previous cohorts as well. And of course, in an ideal world, we're going to be able to, you know, have multi-year cohorts too. So yeah, it's that this idea that it's kind of embedded.
I think it also what's really exciting is, you know, certainly from our side, being able to have, you know, Blazing Griffin and Final Pixel being able to bring in those experts that are actually out shooting and working and doing it, and be able to bring that back to a learning environment, and just be able to go, hey, I like one of the tutors, Adrian, was talking about a shoot he was on yesterday. We were having a problem last night. He came in this morning and was like, oh, I had this problem yesterday, and this is what I did. And it was like,
where were you last night?
But that's the really, really lovely thing about it, is that just you are able to track what's happening in the industry, the problems that are happening, because that's what this does.
And you're also building a community as well around it, right? You know, because it's not just, you know, that kind of short-term thing. It means that community is going to be there for everyone on an ongoing basis to be able to continue to share their learnings and knowledge.
That's a big part of it. And when you talked about the industry kind of approach, that was something that Jodie and I talked about from the very first time we done training nearly 2.5 years ago at Greenwich, at University of Greenwich. And you know, Jodie was always really, you know, keen to bring in Final Pixel to do the training, because for that reason, like she could see that there were other options out there were ways to do things, but actually for you it was like, let's get people who are working out there on set to come into the students and then share that with the students, so the students are like getting an edge as well. It gives the students at the university an edge over others who are coming out into the market, because as you say, like, it's changing every week, and you're getting the guy who's just came off the stage to immediately get that into and when you're dealing with technology at this kind of early stage, it's constantly changing, and I know we all kind of say that regularly and almost kind of take it for granted, but it is such a big deal, you know, the fact that this shifts so dramatically literally week by week at the moment, and so our workflows are changing week in, week out. Every shoot shifts a bit, as you know, around the edges, and we change things. So but it's always been our mission to like get that out there and share it with people, because actually that's the nature of filmmaking. Like, why would it be any other way?
It's the really, really nice thing of, like, it's that again, I might be slightly biased here, but I think it's that perfect balance between education and industry, and that kind of crossing of how you are able to really dive into the depths of what VP is, but then also have that real world, okay, here's the theoretical, here's the real world use, let's try and meet somewhere in the middle, because you know, that's what shoots are. You're compromising with whatever you do, but the more we can start to bring those lines together, the better. The more likely you're going to have a fantastic shoot than something that you've come away with going, I wish I had, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. And I think this kind of cements that idea and that concept of, you know, again, it's another boring kind of thing that everybody says is of front-loading shoots, but it starts to set that mentality into the students, and hopefully it will allow them to use it well.
Well, another thing I think is really amazing about this partnership and this fellowship is that there's lots of barriers to entry, as we well know. The tech is very expensive. Trying to get people on sets to touch and feel things. I mean, even just from when they first walk into the set and then they start seeing everything put together, it's like that aha moment starts going on. So it's so important to have that sort of tacit in-person kind of experience.
Yeah.
But it's very resource heavy.
Yeah.
But the other thing too, you know, that's a pillar of Final Pixel is about community building. Michael from day one was always about, I can't tell you how many people have said, why are you giving away all this knowledge? Well, it's the only way we're going to lift an industry. It's the only way we're going to push, you know, forward and move the needle on innovation and continually reinventing. So what's really great about this partnership is that you've got collective expertise that's all weighing into the education piece, what's happening in the industry, what challenges you're having to face, and all those are feeding in real time. And then obviously you've got the trainers who are also working in industry. I say quite often, these are skill sets to be able to work in the industry and also teach at the same time are two completely different skill sets. And the advantage we have here is that we have set this program up in a way that I think is really setting a precedent and how that kind of collective collaboration can happen. And I know in conversations with education, like universities and other education organizations are looking at this because quite often the industry and education has been very segmented. And with this tech and this convergence, I don't think you can exist any longer in silos, even within the education sphere.
We never could, but we just
we just did.
Done.
Exactly.
So,
it seems nuts that we did before.
You know, like I went through before stepping into the world of film and TV. I was a professional sound engineer, and I went through college and had one of the problems that I had at that time was I was there in the switch between analog and digital, and the speed at which the digital realm was just barreling forward, and the skills that need to be done wasn't feeding through quick enough because as you say, there was that kind of like industry was over here and education was here, and it was that it didn't feel right because we are, as you say, we're working with technology, we're playing with the bleeding edge of things, so we may as well find ways to just push those
them
two
together,
things together and have a great time. And like that's what's really really exciting about this.
It goes without, I don't know, I mean, I have to say, like, you have to find good partners though, and it is important to like check in on that. I think, you know, like it feels like, okay, well, great, we all had this alignment, but you know, it doesn't necessarily automatically happen like that. And you know, it's really worth saying, like, everyone is investing a lot into this program from from both Blaze and Griffin and Nightsky, because you know, I think that in Screen Scotland as well, you know, like that it takes these. It takes a leap, basically. It takes a kind of willingness to take a leap and do something different and be willing to take that risk and sort of go with it and see where it goes and sort of shape it and figure it out as we do it a bit. You know, there's a lot of that. I think that's really important because it's not like that everywhere, and there is something about virtual production. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the passion that kind of goes with it, or the like excitement that definitely
we're all
early
nerds. Adopter mentality as well. That's its own kind of community too.
It's something like that. There's some energy, right? I can't get a finger on it, but it makes people want to do that. It makes you know, MDs of companies, but we want to do this. I can see this, and
I think it's
great,
that thing of where because it's still so emerging, so developing, it feels like you are putting your stamp on it. You're getting to somehow shape what this industry is going to finally be. You know, if you were to go in now and try and change like how a camera department functions, you would just get laughed at. You know, everything we do here is always at the minute is how do we get better at it? How do we make it more efficient? How do we make it do more of what we want it to do? And I think that's what kind of everybody that's doing it is, that's what they're finger and they're feeding into. So it's
tech based, but it's so highly creative in that sense. Like, isn't it? Like, you know, you end up exactly piecing things together, trying to like make something out of it. Yeah.
And I think so many of us got into the creative industries in whatever form because you're excited about what you could make, right? It comes from that childhood, like I want to tell stories, or I want to play, I want to make something that does not currently exist. And I think when, you know, even if you've been in the industry for decades and you see some of the things that virtual production is capable of, it speaks to that. You're like, wait, I can make, what can I make now? You know, what could now be at my fingertips? And then you go, oh, there's a lot to figure out. So I'll come back to reality, and then you know, you put on your production hat and you're like, okay, let's figure out how to actually do this. But you know, it does bring that sort of like that dream back from
it's that being able to make joy. And, I make a joke quite a lot of like, we're playing and make believe, but we are. But that's the real joy of it. Is it's just another tool in that tool set to be able to just hopefully bring some level of emotion of what you're shooting to an audience of some variety, and that's really exciting.
It is, and it's also very exciting that in Scotland you might be able to do that and not get wet while you're doing it.
Definitely.
Although it's not raining today.
No, it's not raining
today.
It's not raining at this minute.
I actually
that doesn't mean that it won't rain.
I saw the sun when I came in. Like there was definitely sunshine.
Did somebody put money in the meter for that?
Yeah, honestly.
I remember 2006, 7, 8 when the whole marketplace shifted. YouTube came out. The whole distribution window, and everybody was talking about the democratization of filmmaking kind of thing, which we've been talking about a lot since then. But I don't think, at least in my short life experience of when that happened, because I had made a film and all of a sudden lots of barriers moved away because that hierarchy ceased to exist. There was sort of lots of other opportunities to get my story out to audiences without having to go through the traditional distribution windows. And I look now, and if I was like a young person starting now, you've got all this technology. Yes, there's a lot to learn. Yes, there's still barriers to entry. You still have to buy the kit. You still have to have access to that. But what an amazing time to be a storyteller and being able to tell across so many different transmedia platforms that you literally are not, you could tell a story in any kind of way, that you wanted to, and have distribution opportunities. And I think that is a really exciting time to be in, and I think that's why people are so excited at this point.
It's that thing of where even on the question of like the barrier to entry on cost, most people have got a smartphone in their pocket. You can scale,
you can LiDAR scan,
but you can again, to sort of bridge that like traditional to new age of the being able to do like VCam and have hands-on and start to use it in the way that you would a normal camera. It allows you to again be able to like capture things and sell it as a here's my actual vision rather than going just imagine
a world. Yeah.
And that is also I think as I say, I think
game
it all comes
changing
back to that thing of where it's how do you take creative and make real.
Exactly.
As a counterpoint, not to bring it down, because I totally agree. And this isn't really for now, but I think the thing that's gone hand in hand in terms of trends there is that whilst that the making of it has become more accessible and getting it out has become more accessible to a wide range of people, which is incredible, discoverability has become a massive issue. And quality to an extent.
Agree.
And that I don't mean from like a look and feel. Some of my favorite things ever were, shot on handy cams or whatever. Like it doesn't have to be that, but just like it's almost a different type of challenge now. So now it's like as a creative, how do you
rise above
find your audience?
Your
audience is right there, but there's so many paths to it. How are you going to find them? How are they going to find you? And obviously that kind of big trend towards storytelling on social media is one version of that. But I think there's, clearly the more traditional forms of distribution and reaching out and formats of storytelling are still going to be around for a very long time. But there's a challenge there, which with all the disruption in the last couple of years, they're also like, how do I speak to that audience, and how do I find a young audience who are consuming media in that kind of way? That's quite far away from virtual production, but it was just
well, no, it's a good
it's important.
It's part of it.
There's these overlaps between all the different parts of what we do, and one of them is games. Comes up a lot. Games industry, and you're talking about reaching younger people, and I think that there is storytelling as we have it in film narrative. There's storytelling as we know in games, and Blazing Griffin, like you guys obviously are well into games and make
We're
games.
well into games,
and that's awesome. And like it's a really cool overlap to be working with a partner that understands games in that way as well, because naturally a lot of our team, we're all geeks and that, like we all play games and stuff and are like obsessed with this sort of stuff. So being able to find that overlap between virtual production, game engines, real time, bringing storytelling to different methods of telling stories is really actually feeling more tangible than ever. Like it's the sort of thing we've talked about for years, and like we've seen develop through years. I always talk about it, but I remember playing Tomb Raider like with my brother. Actually, same brother, Chris, who we founded the company with, and we used to play Tomb Raider and just sit and like watch each other play it. And I remember that was one of the first games where it actually felt like a story. It felt, you know, so much more immersive, you know, compared to like the first games I started playing that were MS-DOS based, you know, like text games. Like,
You've just shown your age there.
no, I know, but like, Zork, Zork, but I loved those games. You know,
Me too.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and you know, I used to play all these.
You were
like,
too cool
text-based
playing,
games.
playing guitar.
I'm too young.
Yeah, exactly. Possibly.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh
fine.
wow! And like somebody
92,
posted.
baby.
92. Did you ever play Monkey Island at least?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Monkey Island's like a massive one as well for me. But like, again, storytelling. These are all ways of, you know, love those games, and so always kind of wanted that bit more somewhere in between film and games and engagement. And yeah, it's interesting. Like, we're kind of getting so, like, people talk about this a lot, and they talk about how they're very different storytelling methods and things, and first person versus being involved, but it still feels like there's something in all this that we've just not really properly cracked yet. Like, I think we all know, like, there's something really creative in the blend between the game and the film world, and it's gradually things are happening there. But yeah, these partnerships, I hope that like long term will just put the people together that can actually really crack that, you know.
And I think there's something. So yes, and I hope there's things that we'll be able to talk about in terms of this partnership for things like that in the near future. But I think one of the ways to kind of crack it is actually to go back to your inner child. Because it is back to those kind of things. Like, what would I want? You know, when I'm not thinking about the constraints, what is it that I wanted to watch? How was it that I wanted to consume? And also, to look at younger demographics now and look at those trends. But like, so much of it for me is going back to the way I now think about storytelling, is because that's the way I thought about it when I was a kid. You know, when we started Blazing Griffin, we were like, well, we're of a generation that grew up with just thinking that stories were entry points into a world. They weren't, I mean, some of them were just, 3 acts or whatever. And that's wonderful too. But a lot of what we really inspired us were the worlds and then the stories that were entry points into whichever medium those stories were told in. It could have been comics, books, video games, whatever. And so I'm like, what else is, it's like going back now, knowing what could be capable, what is capable with virtual production, and then bringing that back into it, and just like we get
So
it is very exciting.
possibilities.
It's just, I think we get, because of the constraints over the last few decades of working in the industry, you just start thinking about what's possible now as opposed to going back.
So with that, and we're called back on set shortly. What is your vision with this partnership? Like, what is your vision for the creative industries in Scotland, particularly around VP and production? Like, where do you see it going? What is your hope for it, maybe?
I mean, it would be nice to essentially not be the only one that have got this sort of setup. Like, that is our, I think Lewis is, who's the managing director of Nightsky, I think he said it before, of that we are the first to have this here, but we do not want to be the last. We want to find more people who can do this. One, so that we can have a holiday and a break, but two, from a building that industry and building that community, as you say, like across Scotland, and being able to just have fun. I think is the thing. It's really joyous getting to do this, and it's a interesting mix of tech and storytelling, and just tickles all those right dopamine hits of my ADHD brain. So yeah,
for me, kind of comes back to the democratization point a little bit, or the kind of leveling the playing fields globally. There are such good examples in the last 20 years, let's say, since digital revolution started to take place, where small countries have punched above their weight because they have become experts in some aspect of that, that part of the supply chain of the creative industries. And people will go to those countries, no matter where they are, because they know that's where the experts are. And that can be, can be really small. And Scotland has a wonderful history of punching above its weight in many areas. And whilst it is known for its storytelling, and it does make good films, I would say it probably hasn't punched above its weight in the way that maybe it could have with its level of education, its expertise. And I think virtual production is an opportunity with some focus to be able to actually draw a really high degree, so that actually we could be competitive. We could become a destination for people to come and use our crews and the tech and the talent that is here.
I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about, like, we are a net exporter of talent. Always have been, and across multiple creative industries, we always have.
I'm an example of that. I don't live in Scotland anymore.
And it's like, but part of that has always been because of the available opportunities that you can have is that, again, in my previous life as an audio engineer, I was told for years that if I wanted to get a job, I had to go to London. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah, and that's so true. And that's like my analogy is that, I had to leave Scotland to go and work in media entertainment in London. But like virtual production for me is bringing something which is way more accessible to get people that don't want to move and uproot from family and do things. They could do it more locally. They could do it from home, for goodness sake, for some of the stuff that we use. And I mean, that's definitely been my big vision with the Virtual Production Fellowship, is that let's build the teams. Let's create like the best teams, and let's start here in Scotland. Let's work so hard with a qualitative, program that just like gets everything in there to like a small group of people, and then keep building on it. But the idea being that, this is talent driven. This is so talent driven. Like, we need to have good teams, and we see that because that's what our customers look for. That's what our clients want. They want to de-risk their production. They want to know that when they put a big show somewhere that it's going to run smoothly. And so let's give that, and then exactly, let's build up that talent pool.
Hannah says risk mitigation.
And risk mitigation as well.
She loves
It's a great point to conclude on.
Yes.
Risk mitigation.
Risk mitigation. Thank you very much, Naysun. Thank you, Ben. Thanks, Michael. This is really great. It's fun. We could talk all afternoon, but now we have to go to work.
Okay, back to work.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks, James.
Awesome. Thank you, James.
It's on the camera.
Amazing.
Oh no, I forgot to turn it on.